I'm Marc Stevens, author of Adventures in Legal Land, and of course, Government Indicted, and another stop on the No State Project Same Old Lie World Tour. And of course, the same old lie is if you're physically in Arizona or Toronto, or like today, if you are in Australia, then the laws of Australia apply to you. Not a shred of evidence to prove that, and what we're going to do here is just. I spoke to, and I'll put this link in the article, and of course in the show notes. I am going to be speaking about an attorney who's supposed to be quite experienced, quite proficient at her job at the Law Society of New South Wales. And the reason why I got to her name is Pauline Wright. I had gotten to her because I was speaking to this is last week. I had been speaking to someone at the Jody Minor who is a media rep for the Sydney City Council, and so she was not able to answer any questions regarding if I'm in Sydney and I own property. She had said that I would be subject to the city planning or the zoning laws, and I said, well, what evidence is there that just because I'm physically in Sydney that those laws would apply to me? So she did not feel comfortable answering the question, which we can understand. There is no actual evidence. So what Jody did was she suggested that I speak to the New South Wales Law Society. So I called, and I guess that's lawsociety.com.au. If you want to look that up. And I'd spoken to a Jacob, and he told me that a Pauline Wright was the expert, and he would put a request into her. She called me, and we set up an appointment to speak a few hours later. I mentioned this on the No State Project last weekend, but I'm going to go through more details now. But we had spoken on April 3rd, 2014, and I wish I screwed up. I don't have the audio of this. And it was, again, she agreed. She knew it was for a broadcast. And I took good notes, which I always suggest doing, especially if you've got a thing for technical issues like I do here on the No State Project. Keep good notes. But it's also good to keep the good notes because you can't remember everything that they're saying. So one of the things she said she agreed with the same old lie, not that she thought it was a lie, but that if you are physically in Australia, the laws of Australia apply. Well, she says, well, it's the same as the states. If I'm in the United States, then all the laws of the United States apply. Or, she says it's the same with any nation. And she said that then she said that when I asked for evidence of that, she said, well, it's not a matter of evidence. And so when I asked her to explain that, I said, is it your position that the laws apply because the laws say so? And she agreed, and I said, well, let me write it down. And so we talked about that being circular logic. The code applies because the code applies. And she got a little... She was very professional with me, but she wanted to backtrack and really or clarify what she was saying. So she was saying, well, it's not that the law says so, it's because the people said so. And she claimed that there was some kind of unwritten contract with the people. And I said, what do you mean the people said so? So she went through this civics kind of thing that, well, the people through the democracy and they duly elected officials. Do you mean the same duly elected officials that forced those people to pay them? How is that? They're forcing them to pay. And she was actually under the impression that this is what, which was so, why it was so bad, so bad to lose this audio. I wish she had recorded it. But she had claimed that the people had a choice on whether it was government or not, individually. And she made a claim that people chose to have a government and then chose to have them write a constitution. I said, you have to check your historical facts. I don't think, especially the indigenous people in Australia, they had no choice on whether there was going to be a government or not. You had these English colonialists. There was no choice on whether there was a government. Yeah, there may have been a constitution later, but the choice on whether there was a government, there's no choice given that. So she had said that if the people want to get rid of a government, they could. They could just change the constitution and get rid of government and taxes. Well, why would you have to go through the government to do that? If enough people didn't want it, just do nonviolent non-cooperation. But she insisted that it was a democracy and that the people had chosen to have a government, and there's just no historical facts. And this is to get around that her point that the applicability of the Constitution laws is not a matter of evidence. It's a matter of do this or you'd be punished. I mean, she even said, well, if the people chose not to pay taxes through nonviolent non-cooperation in an effort to get rid of the government, then they have to live with the consequences of not paying those taxes. So again, it's pay or go severe consequences. So I had asked her, if I had done business in the same manner as the Australian government and I forced everyone to pay me, would she consider me a criminal? And she said, well, yes, it would be robbery. But it was different when people called government did it because they were duly elected. I was like, wait a minute. That's getting away from the core issue of the force. And she wanted to examine the issue. Well, let's not look at the coercion. I said that's the only issue worth looking at. The only reason we're looking to abolish government, the only thing we're really looking to do is to get rid of this idea that it's okay to force people to pay them. That's the whole problem. Everything, all the drones, the indefinite detention, all of this comes from accepting the concept that it is okay to steal from people to protect them. That it is okay to force people to provide, to pay you. So she did agree at one point that, and I wrote it down, that you have no choice as an individual if there's government or not. But then she backpedaled and said that duly appointed and elected people in a democracy. I said that no. The people have never had a choice whether there's government or not. The form of government is something that they're giving an illusion of choice. That just like you have labor and whatnot, different Republican, Democrat, labor, and whatever, green. This is the illusion of choice. You have no choice. You either pay them or you go to jail, and she agreed to that. So it's just a matter of, yeah, she agrees the code is applicable because the code is applicable. It's nothing but circular logic, but she wants to get into and mask that and cover up and give a false perception of legitimacy with the ridiculous statements that, oh, well, the people agreed to have government and duly elected these people to represent them. No. If they agreed, support wouldn't be compulsory. It's that simple. People who agree to do something are not being forced. So you got the compulsory consent, they don't work. Look at what they're doing, not what they're saying. They may say it's by consent, but when they threaten you, either you pay or you go to jail and we'll take all your stuff. That's what's important. So just this thing is, I'm a robber. When I do it, it's no different than when they do it, because government is just a group of men and women. So if it's wrong for me, it's wrong for them. So, again, I apologize for all these technical issues. I'm going to get another microphone. I'll make sure, absolutely sure, that whenever I do one of these interviews in public, I'll have the microphone on, or I'll just use the internal microphone to the camera, because at least I'd have the audio. And then Calvin could do his magic, maybe, just enhancing that a bit so it sounds a little more professional. Anyway, my name is Marc Stevens. This is another edition of the Same Old Lie World Tour. If you think that you have evidence that these prosecutors and these lawyers, these experts, let's say at the New South Wales Law Society cannot provide, and I don't mean, well, the law applies because the law says so, or, well, the duly elected. I mean actual evidence to show that the Constitution laws apply to me just because I'm physically in a certain area. Please call into the No State Project. We're live on LRN.FM every Saturday from 4 to 7 Eastern Standard Time. And you can contact me also and present your evidence at markstevens.net.